What up, Cooks? It's your boy, the Hater, and I'm pulling an all-nighter because I got a lot of things to do in a few hours in the morning. It's 3:30 right now, so I figured to kill some time, why don't I just watch some Raw? I always record it, so I watched it. To be honest, I completely forgot that it was Monday. I didn't even care because even though last week's Raw ended on an oomph and I thought it would make me want to watch this week's, it really didn't, but here I am anyways. The show starts out, Drew McIntyre comes out, he complains a lot about CM Punk, and now he has CM Punk's bracelet, and we find ourselves in a feud between Drew McIntyre and CM Punk over a bracelet. During this promo, I couldn't help but think, imagine if Stone Cold stole The Undertaker's bracelet. You know what I mean? You can't imagine it because that would be fucking lame as shit. And this was one of the lamest things I've ever seen in my entire life. Now, with that being said, we move on to the first and arguably only real match on the card. And even this match ended in DQ. Braun Breaker versus Ludwig Kaiser. I don't know why Braun Breaker is portrayed as having this 50-50 booking with these mid-card jobbers, but that's what they've chosen to do with him. In my opinion, it's a stupid idea. Long story short, Ludwig gets the upper hand. He's going to do the little spot where he tries to injure the person by drop kicking them when they're on the steps. And he gets interrupted by Sheamus. Sheamus goes to powerbomb him through a table. And Braun Breaker spears Sheamus and, theoretically also spears Kaiser because he falls, right? So he takes them both out with one spear. The idea here was silly because it's the same thing as last week. But Michael Cole, I think it was Michael Cole, could have been The Miz because they had The Miz on commentary. He says something like, Braun Breaker is just tired of people ruining his matches, which begs the question of, that's right, why wouldn't he be tired of people ruining his matches, right? It's like every time he has a match, someone interferes and ruins it. This guy's trying to get his career started, in kayfabe at least, and these people just ruin the matches. So he's justified in beating that ass. Then we have a Judgment Day segment that involved them playing video games. It reminded me of how edgy Judgment Day was in the beginning when they would take a pipe or a broken leg of a chair and put it in someone's mouth and hurt them with it. Now they're just playing video games, and we have Carlito there who doesn't fit in at all, and his job is basically just to say, that's cool, or that's not cool. That's literally his job. This guy's been a complete and utter bust. They hired him back, people got excited, I don't know why. They got excited, and everything that made Carlito at least decent back in the day, they took all that away. Now, even his music is the worst music I've ever heard in my life, the new theme song. He's complete garbage. I don't even know why he's there. Triple H doesn't know what the fuck he's doing at all. But anyways, let's not get focused on Carlito for now, because we have Lyra Valkyria to talk about. Speaking of terrible, she comes out with an overproduced Karrion Kross-like entrance, so she's going to win the match. She wins the match, but with her little stupid finisher, which is essentially the cradle shock. But before that, she's going to go for this powerbomb. She does this weird move for no reason whatsoever. She has the other girl in the powerbomb position, but she swings one leg around the girl's body, does a 360, then picks her up and powerbombs her. No reason at all. She just does it and look like shit. There's a part where all three women are on the ground and the fans start clapping and cheering. And I'm like, I just don't understand what these people are used to watching, because this is complete garbage in my opinion. She wins. Next up, we have Adam Pearce, who is now yelling at Drew McIntyre. Moments ago, the same Adam Pearce was in this tense moment when Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker kind of had a face-to-face backstage, right? And he was all kind of almost scared. He was very Paul Heyman-y, you know what I mean? He was all scared, and all of a sudden he's yelling at Drew McIntyre, who's bigger than both those guys combined. But, whatever. The idea is Drew McIntyre isn't a threat, and for some reason Sami Zayn is this scary guy now all of a sudden. Or maybe, I guess it's just Braun Breaker, who knows? Next up, this segment was the worst segment of the night by far, and in my opinion was one of the worst segments in recent memory. So Liv Morgan comes out, and for some reason Zelena Vega comes out, right? Even though Zelena Vega has nothing to do with Dominic, because Dominic is associated with Rey Mysterio, they've had some, interplay in the matches, and Zelena also wants a title shot. She basically comes out there, and for no reason whatsoever, talks shit to Liv Morgan. Now, some of these things have to make sense. Zelena is playing the face here, but she came off as a heel to me, right? First of all, she's a heel because she's talking shit for no reason. Liv Morgan hasn't done anything to her. If anything, she's the one who's attacking Liv Morgan, right? And Liv Morgan, who's 5'1" maybe, towers over Zelena Vega, which really I know some people like Zelena Vega, but in my opinion, she's complete garbage. In this segment, she couldn't cut a promo to save her life. It wasn't good at all. She's not believable in the ring. She was cool when she was Rosita, when she was the fourth member in a group that involved a guy named Machete at some point and Anarchia. Remember Anarchia, motherfucks? But anyways, this was not good. Also, I didn't like the way that she particularly talked down to Liv Morgan. I'll give you a little anecdote to illustrate what I mean. Over the weekend, the hater was at a barbecue, and I was telling some of the people there about a friend of mine who has some issues, right? He's a great guy, but he's got some, he's going through a hard time, basically, right? And they're like, oh, like some of the people that I was hanging out with, they're like, oh, he must be like a privileged white guy, right? The hater hangs out with a lot of immigrants because the hater is an immigrant. Cucks. But this really pissed me off because I love everybody, but like the way that they said it was almost like they were judging how easy his life was, right? And Zelena Vega was kind of doing this in this promo against Liv Morgan. And a lot of people do this, and it really pisses me off because it's like, I come from a culture, which apparently people are trying to find out where the hater's from. Good luck, cucks. Let's make it a game, right? I come from a culture where, like, if you have problems and you have hardships, you don't go advertising that to people, right? So the hater, some of my closest friends from high school and before that I'm still friends with today, thank God, great guys, they're from Latin American countries. And I've noticed, and I've pointed this out to them, I've said, like, why is it that you guys always brag about getting beaten by your parents, right? And they're like, yeah, because you don't know how hard it is. And I'm like, well, I mean, my parents never beat me because my parents actually disciplined me correctly. But like the point is, I know a lot of people that have gotten their asses beaten by their parents and they don't talk about it, right? And the reason they don't talk about it is because they consider it to be a pussy-ass move to talk about it, right? But for some reason, all my Latino friends, they have this, like, complex, it seems like, where they want to, maybe some of my Latino fans can explain to me, they have this complex where they always want to seem, like, they always want to make it seem as if their life was hard, right? Like, there's nothing virtuous about having a hard life. Nietzsche actually called that slave morals. He basically said that the weakest amongst us, right, weak men and weak women, talk about how much they've suffered. And real ones don't talk about how much they suffered, right? Now, wherever you land on that is immaterial, because the reason why it didn't work in this situation is because Zelena is supposed to be the face. And she was like, you know, she went like, she got real dramatic real quick, right? Like Liv Morgan would say something, like something innocuous, and she'd be like, yeah, I didn't think you knew that, Liv, or something. You know, it was all of a sudden, it's like she's being an asshole to Liv, who, like, once again, has done nothing to her. So maybe someone can explain to me why there's like this, maybe it's like a form of machoism, you know, it's like, oh, I can take the beating, but it's like, I don't know what it is about, like, the, you know, different groups of people from all around the world, but I've noticed that, like, personally in my life, the haters rolled with a lot of tough type dudes, did boxing back in the day, all that shit. And I've noticed that the people that complain, like, not complain, but that talk about, oh, how hard it was, my life was so hard, my mom would beat me with a slipper, and American kids don't know this. And it's like, the people that say this are typically a bunch of pussies, you know what I'm saying? Like the only toughness they can get is by saying, like, oh, I've endured a beating. Like there's some honor in enduring a beating, right? Like, I'll just finish with this real quick. One of the haters' buddies was telling me how one time his dad slapped him, and he fought his dad. Right? He fought his dad. He comes from a wild ass culture. He fought his dad. Right? He was like, I'm not gonna let this man slap me. He was like 7. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, the dad held him down, and, you know, and they have a great relationship now. But the point is, like, this idea that, like, people are like, oh, you take a beating and you take the suffering and, like, this makes me tough. No, it doesn't make you tough. You know what I'm saying? And this is another issue that I have with society, which kind of has this, like, weakness is strength philosophy. You know what I mean? It's like just letting people do whatever the fuck they want to you, and then afterwards you're like, oh, I'm tough for enduring it. Like, shut up. You know what I'm saying? That's just you know what you are, right? And what Zelena is a jobber. And her promo skills were not good. Luckily, Dominic Mysterio, a real star, comes to save the day. But the problem is, the fans won't let him talk. He does say something. I had the volume down a little bit. He does say something, but the whole time I was thinking, I'm like, why didn't you just say, like, to the fans, like, shut up, like Eddie Guerrero would say, right? Which was awesome. The fans are behind him. You know, the fans are treating him just like they treated Eddie Guerrero, who used to have what's called Eddie Guerrero heat. But eventually he got over, and I hope Dominic gets the same thing. This has to mean something. Judgment Day has to mean something. Like, we all know where everyone else is going to end up. Dominic is the only one here, and of course Rhea Ripley, who have a chance to have a good future in this company. So, at some point, Rey Mysterio comes out because he's, like, essentially, like, Zelena's, you know, guardian, right? He comes out, Dominic pushes him, and Liv Morgan interprets this as Dominic is standing up for her against, even pushing his own father, which doesn't make any sense kayfabe-wise. But the segment, I hated it because nothing was advanced. It's the same fucking shit. And I don't even think Zelena Vega got her title shot, right? Like, that wasn't resolved. So I thought it was really dumb. Then we have a bunch of meaningless segments, which I'm not going to talk about here because they were boring. And we have the triple threat match, which I thought was going to be the main event. Braun Strowman. I always forget these motherfuckers. Bronson Reed and Chad Gable. The match just looked fake as shit, right? There was a part where Braun Strowman does that little choo-choo train thing where he comes out and smacks everybody. And you can go look at it if you DVR'd it or something, right? And he does the Bronson Reed, doesn't even touch him. Bronson Reed just throws himself, right? Then the match ends as follows. Strowman pushes Bronson Reed into the fucking, not the turnbuckle, but like the metal part where they have like the digital shit, right? He pushes him into that, and just the way that Bronson Reed didn't sell it was absurd. His head clearly didn't hit. He just goes there, lightly taps it, and then turns around, and Braun does the power slam on him. Braun throws him in the ring. He gets attacked by Judgment Day. The attack lasts like 3 minutes, but in this 3 minutes, Bronson Reed doesn't move at all. Chad Gable's still on top turnbuckle, hits the moonsault and pins him. Now, last week, Chad Gable got murdered by the Wyatt Six. Okay? He got basically like laid out, and even though they followed up on that with him being a little paranoid, it didn't matter because he just won a match. So in other words, why the hell would anyone be afraid of the Wyatt Six? At worst, the Wyatt Six is going to hurt you a little bit, and you're still going to be good enough to win a match against two men that are 4 times your size. So there you have it. Really dumb. The Wyatt Six music hits. Nikki Cross comes out. Chad Gable has to pretend he doesn't know who she is. This is fucking stupid, right? We went from absurd to legitimately stupid. He has to look at her and pretend like he doesn't know what's going on. Then she goes to Michael Cole, gives him a VHS. It's in like a binder, but it's a VHS. Michael Cole's like, oh, what's going on? He opens it. He's like, the video that thing gave me. That thing is Nikki Cross. You know who the fuck she is. She used to dress up as a superhero. Are you retarded, Michael Cole? And the answer to that question is obviously yes. Because eventually what happens is we go to commercial, right? And we come back and Chad Gable apologizes to Alpha Academy, right? Michael Cole's just explaining things like nothing happened. Like, they're just ignoring the fact that Nikki Cross, dressed as a ghost, basically, came out. They don't even acknowledge it, right? Diamond Mine shows up, which would indicate that Chad Gable is in a better fit to be with Diamond Mine. The answer is obviously yes. But, to be honest, Diamond Mine, which I think are great, they're pretty much hampered down by that Ivy Nile broad. Like, she needs to go immediately, you know what I mean? But whatever, it is what it is. The women's tag team champions come out. They've completely dropped the gimmick at this point. They win the match with a little gory bomb, the assisted gory bomb they do. And then they get attacked by Damage Control. Nobody cared at all. Meanwhile, another segment is shown of Damian Priest walking around. He's been walking around the whole night. And basically, even though he's the world champion, he's basically the babysitter of Judgment Day. I get it. This is what the gimmick that they're going for. But nevertheless, it's annoying because he's the world champion, right? If he was just like the serious leader and everyone else is playing video games while he's the one taking it seriously, then that would make sense. But that's not what's happening here. So he goes back there. Finn Balor's playing video games. Balor says that Liv got them a title shot. Cool. You know? After this, Damian Priest comes out to the ring and cuts one of the worst promos of all time. This guy, I want to like Damian Priest because he's got so many good qualities, but he has, and I hate to say it, he basically has zero charisma, right? He is not likable, and he's not good at talking. You know what I mean? It is what it is. I mean, I don't think he can learn it at this age. I mean, I'm sure he can, but he can't learn it at this age and apply it in wrestling in the next few years that he's got left in his career, probably. So it's just not working out, unfortunately. You know what I mean? I wanted to, but it's not. The promo also felt rushed. Maybe they were pressed for time and he had to deliver it out. I hope that's it, but it just wasn't good. But basically, he concludes with the following sentiment. He says that as long as he's the champion, Seth can't be on top. Wow, how profound. Seth Rollins knows this. That's why he wants to be the champion. So what the fuck are you saying? Basically, Damian Priest came out and said, I'm the champion. That's literally all he said. You know, it took him 5 paragraphs, but he just said, I'm the champion. You're not. I'm more important than you. Yeah, we know. That's why we're having the title match, cuck. Seth Rollins comes out. I fast forward. I don't have time to tolerate the whoa. I fast forward that shit. When I press play, Gunther's out there. Also boring me half to death. This guy also sucks on the mic. This promo, I didn't hear Seth Rollins talk, but I know that he's decent. But Gunther and Damian Priest are just bad. They're just bad, motherfucks. They're not good enough to cut promos on TV. Them, along with Zelena Vega, are not good enough. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, hater. Well, if this is what we've got, then, what can we do about that? Well, I mean, personally, the answer to that question is that Gunther's what, 36, 37? Looks like I just Googled it. He's 36, about to turn 37. So good for Gunther, right? He's 37. The Miz, how old is The Miz? He's got to be under 44. He's 43. Well, I guess right. 43. So Gunther is only 6 years younger than The Miz. Put The Miz in there. Put The Miz in there and you will get more viewers. It's as simple as that. Nobody wants to see Gunther in a suit. And an ill-fitting suit, might I add. Nevertheless, that's all we got. You get what you get, you don't get upset, motherfucks. After this, they play the tape that Nikki Cross gave them. Michael Cole just says, we're going to play the tape that thing gave us. Which, I mean, this is just stupid at this point. It's like, why not just throw the tape away? Why are you acquiescing to this? This is a group of people that last week beat up your roster. And now you're bending to their demands. Why? Doesn't make any sense. It would be much better if what's going on? They've infiltrated our feed, right? That would make more sense. Why should bring in a VHS? For weeks or even months at this point, they've been infiltrating the feed with QR codes and shit like that. Obviously, the Wyatt Six are tech-savvy motherfucks. They're obviously nerds. So they play this VHS tape. They went from hacking to VHS tapes. Keep in mind, the Wyatt Six posted an article on WWE.com. This is how stupid this group is. So basically, they play the tape. We see Bo Dallas dressed as Uncle Howdy. Bo Dallas is, as Uncle Howdy, is talking to Bo Dallas dressed as Bo Dallas, right? He's talking to himself. And basically, this is just not a good segment. They acknowledge Bray Wyatt's death, which pretty much ruins the entire character. But it's just not a good segment. But I will admit, Bo Dallas is doing a pretty good job, right? He's emoting. He's a decent actor. You know what I mean? He's always been like that, though, but to be fair, but now he's actually showing some of it. Now, Bo Dallas then starts talking about what Bray Wyatt stood for and what he believed in. What the fuck are you talking about? What did he believe in? Can fucking someone answer that question? Because I'm sick and tired of hearing about how Bray Wyatt, the great philosopher, he was ahead of his time. Why was he ahead of his time? What was the character, fuckers? Someone tell me, what was the character of Bray Wyatt? But I'm going to do another video on this. To kind of wrap up this entire Wyatt Six saga before we actually start on the Wyatt Six videos as they actually start making some appearances. But basically, the long and short of it is that Bo Dallas is upset. Why is he upset? He's upset because the group that he's in was forgotten, right? It's basically the Forgotten Sons, except they're dressed like goofs. Basically, the idea is this. Bo Dallas was excited to work with his brother Bray, right? Bray Wyatt died, and the plan was put on hiatus. So he said, they forgot about us. And we reminded them or something like that, right? And it's like, what? So this is it's not even like a weird gimmick anymore. It's just a bunch of people that are upset they didn't get a chance in WWE. It literally is Retribution 2.0. I was right all along, motherfucks. So the underpinnings of this group basically are Bray Wyatt is too good, and Bo Dallas isn't. So Bo Dallas has an inferiority complex along with the other 5 jobbers that are involved in this stable, and they're like, we're gonna show you what we're made of, right? And it's basically like, oh, you didn't care enough to put us on TV, so we're on TV. It literally is Retribution, motherfucks. So I don't want to hear this shit anymore. That's it, basically. Now, after the video ends, we go directly to commercial, which is stupid, but whatever. That's what happens. We come back from commercial. And nobody addresses what we just saw. Michael Cole is like, SummerSlam tickets are going on sale. And he's all cheerful and shit. What the fuck? You're not going to talk about what just happened? You had Bo Dallas, the guy who would say Bo leave, and he would say B team, 1, 2, 3 or whatever. Or go B team, go. I don't remember. Right? This guy now is talking to himself as Uncle Howdy, and nobody's going to laugh at this shit. Michael Cole just goes on to talk about how SummerSlam is coming to Indianapolis or some shit. Next up, we have Kofi Kingston versus Karrion Kross. I don't particularly care about this match, but I will say that there's been some build to it, right? So it felt like a bigger match than a lot of the other matches. Also because we don't really see Kofi Kingston enough, and this is probably the first time in like 18 months that we've seen Karrion Kross wrestle on TV. Nevertheless, they have a very, very short match, and it cuts to Paul Ellering and AOP beating the hell out of Xavier Woods in the back. Kross hits his finisher and pins Kofi, and then Kross makes his one face. He has that one face he always makes. He makes it. That's it. That's what happened. Then they show us the debut of Jacob Fatu, which essentially involves him, a Samoan, coming out and doing the Samoan moveset. Cody's in a 6-man tag team match now at Money in the Bank against 3 jobbers, right? It's basically Cody, Kevin Owens, and Randy Orton. It's going to be them 3. And they're going to be wrestling the new Bloodline except for Jacob Fatu. It's going to be them against Solo and Tama Tonga and Tangaloa. And you can probably expect Tala Tonga to come and make his debut because this entire format is flawed, right? But think about that. The world champion, Kofi Kingston, it might as well be Kofi Kingston at this point. Maybe Brock Lesnar can beat Cody Rhodes in 5 seconds too. The world champion, Cookie Rhodes, is in a 6-man tag match. Enough said, motherfucks. After this, we can just pretty much accept that the Cody Rhodes title reign is shit, right? I don't think anybody can argue that anymore. Lastly, we have a tag match that Liv Morgan set up for us. It's JD and Finn versus Miz and R-Truth. Long story short, Liv Morgan distracts R-Truth, allowing Finn to hit the dropkick thing and then do the coup de grace and then 1, 2, 3, right? Now, there's a few videos that I have in the pipeline. I don't know if I've released them yet to the public, but basically there was a video where I said that once Judgment Day dies down, what's going to happen is that Finn Balor is going to be in the tag team with JD McDonough, and that's already happened. They don't even wait for me, right? And eventually they're going to be a jobber tag team, like on the same level as DIY, and they're going to get fired. So we're already starting with that. Once again, the hater was right. I give this Raw... I hated it, so I gotta give it a 2 out of 10. We'll give it a 3 out of 10. I was close to giving it a 2. I was close to giving it a 1, if I'm being honest, but it could be worse, right? At the very least, there was a decent amount of wrestling. So 2.5, I think, is a very reasonable score. 2.5 out of 10, motherfucks. Yeah, just in case anybody thought I meant 3 out of 5. Absolutely not. It's a 2.5 out of 10. Also known as a 1.25 out of 5 up in this bitch. That being said, cucks, take care of yourselves and have a nice day, motherfucks.